Morning.
Victories, wins. See a couple of new faces in here, so hopefully I haven't scared you away already if this is your first time. I promise it will become somewhat normal for you, all right? No, for those of you that are new, welcome. Glad to see you guys here. The things that we do here are intended for the right use, get your mind in the right place, help you kind of center yourself, get ready for what you're about to do for the day, for the week, and your career. So make sure that you continue to come, and hopefully you'll recognize that. So victories, wins.
Last week, my husband's schedule kind of got mixed up. I ended up having to take my daughter to a class. And while I was at the class, I got a call through Relo for somebody that was looking at property. And I was on the phone with her, and she said, you know, honestly, I'm not sure why they put me through, because I have somebody that I want to work with. And I asked her a few questions about why and blah, blah. And she was like, well, let me keep your number because, you know, maybe it won't work out. But while I was on the phone, the guy next to me heard what I was saying. And so as soon as I got off the phone, he stood up and he was like, oh, you're a realtor. And basically told me that he had $2 million worth of acquiring property that he wants to do. So sent him over to Inspiro last week, and the money items are really important, you know, so then he was able to get some advising on how what he wants to do might not be the thing that makes him the most money, and he might want to break it up. But it was kind of crazy because sometimes you think, oh, I'm taking time off to do this thing. But if you stay professional and you stay kind, like I didn't tell the lady, okay, I don't want to help you.
Right.
I just was very kind and professional to her and said, fine, stick with that person, but make sure you ask these questions. And that allowed him to hear and have a conversation. So sometimes we have to just remember we're in the right place at the right time, even when we take a detour.
And just talking. I mean, people that we know, people that, I mean, I was talking to someone as well that I've known for years, but we haven't seen each other in a long time. And just the subject of what we did came up, and the same thing is they didn't know that I was in real estate. But that's the key part, is the more people that we're talking to, the more people that we're letting the secret out, that we're a secret agent, right? That opportunities come. So that's fantastic. It's great. I see you raise your hand?
No.
Did you want to raise your hand?
So I've been thinking about mentioning this for a while. In summit, it was talked about being honest or true to yourself. And because of experiences I had as a kid being on the receiving end of charity, I've always known that I want to be on the other end in a way, and have not been playing with the role that I've been wanting to do. So I have now written down, and every morning I write down how much I want to donate towards the charity this year.
That's awesome. Come talk to me afterwards. There's some other ways to also get involved too.
Okay.
Does that directly involve giving you money?
My charities. My charities. So another hand.
Well, I was going to say something else, but today I am grateful for orange, and people like to make it work.
If Leslie Thorpe was here, she would be contrary to that statement. She
That's
would,
awesome. So I wanted to
I don't know if it works or not, but it's different, right?
Hey, man, the beats it. So it does work, by the way.
We don't have very many things that we can do as guys to
Whoa.
to do all this stuff. We gotta do it. We gotta do some really weird things. I'm not going anything. I'm not doing the makeup, all the other stuff that other guys might do. That's not
I
me.
think we need to talk after. Yeah.
Undercover expressive.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think we need to talk after also. I'm kidding.
Does it need to be in a public forum? Do I need to pay money for this council concession?
Let me just keep talking. Yeah. So what I really wanted to say is, not that we don't have enough affirmations already, but one affirmation I have for me, at least in the morning, is when I step into uncertainty, I see my greatness. And a lot of us have those true friends that will challenge us and call us for the BS or not just give us the fluff or whatever it is, and really challenge us to be better. And there are definitely people like that in this company. There are a lot of people like that in this company, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for agents, or as much as you may think that other people have it figured out, when I talk to agents and they do step out and they share maybe stuff that they're going through and rough times, whether I've been there or not, and they step into it anyway and step into the business, it's inspiring. So I just wanted to say I'm grateful to be in a place where we can talk about that.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm grateful for my career choice. I didn't need to be here.
You didn't.
He just shows
He
up.
didn't. Well, wait, career choice or company choice? Because
Career
both.
choice. Career choice.
First both.
I went there I went to school for an education and I had a career. And I fumbled around with another brokerage for a few years before running into Syatt, Morris, and Oki, and found direction, found leadership, found like this activity of centering ourselves in things that we're grateful for, and then for me that's at least what I do over here. And then writing down the things that I want. Excellent activity, because some days I struggle with like, what the hell do we want? If we know what we want, it makes it intentional. And I never meant to be in real estate, and I found myself a career and something that I love to do. And I'm currently in the process of building my dream job, and it's a fun process.
That's cool. Awesome. For those of you that don't, thanks, Curtis. For those of you that don't know him, he's a little bit humble in kind of what he phrased when we had the opportunity of first sitting down and meeting with him. Curtis has a shell of tough guy. He does. And when we first met him, he definitely had his guard up. And everything he was doing, everything he wanted, everything where he was is exactly what he needed to be, and he made it known. It was a little bit having to break through, but what I can say is not only has turned out to be an incredible agent, but he's also come out to be a dear friend, and he had to break through that wall, and this guy will do everything for you.
I wasn't wearing a tie too often before I came here.
See, that was the hardest thing we had to help him overcome, right there. So, no, thank you. Okay, a couple things that I want to talk about. Some of the stuff you may have heard before, but I was listening to a talk last night from a Harvard professor, and he was giving a talk about happiness and how we can achieve happiness. And there are typically three things that are the focal point on how to establish happiness. I want to identify these, but they're also going to lead me into a different way of thinking. But the three things that he brought up I thought were kind of amusing, and of course he's got all the statistics to help back it up. I think it was a 40-year time frame of providing the historical reference to it. But I want to just point out a couple of them, and it's interesting, a couple things that he brought up. First thing he said is statistically, those that are married, so for those of you who are not, and I wasn't for a while, just get married, because apparently, statistically, those that are married are happier than everyone else. And
Really?
the fun, I know. See, he broke this down. He's like,
I heard the opposite.
well, hold on a second. Listen, the reason why I'm getting this, he also said this.
That guy must have his wife looking over his
He also said this. Those that are about to
Did
get
your wife watch
divorced,
this video afterwards?
I'll have you. Those that are about to get divorced are also happy. So he pointed out the fact that, he goes, what's the correlation here? I mean, obviously, you got to have a good marriage that's there, but right. But those that are not, they're equally as happy because they're about to typically get divorced. So take that. We're not going to focus on number one too much, but he did mention the fact that historically, that's the truth. There's a lot of things that are for it. You create some more stability in what is being established, which then leads into the second one. He talked about this, and we've heard this phrase many times, where money doesn't buy happiness. He goes, money does actually buy happiness. Statistically, because you think about it, if you cannot afford to do anything, you can't provide food, you can't provide shelter, your basic needs, that is going to be extremely stressful. So the idea that money does not buy happiness is, at its root, flawed, false. However, he also identified this. He gave, in his statistical approach, on a graph, money's like this. Meaning, the start of the money, at some point, delayed gratification. If you've got none, if you have got $0, you can't provide yourself, the little amount of money that you're going to find is going to provide extreme happiness, because now your basic needs or whatever are going to be provided for. But at some point, it's kind of like eating I'll say for myself, eating a Big Mac. Maybe that first bite that you haven't had for a while, you drive by a McDonald's and you can smell the grease a block and a half away, right? You can just that grease is kind of drawing you in. You take the first bite of the Big Mac, you're like, this was a right choice. I'm glad I was here. And then the second or third, you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck was I thinking? And by the end of the burger, if you finish it, you're like, okay, I am never coming back here again. Now, Korean food, if you guys have not had it,
Right.
this does not work. Korean, I can start first bite to the last. I'm stuffed, and I'll still shove it in my mouth. It is amazing. If you haven't had it, this is not a sponsorship for them. They didn't sponsor me to come here, but it's tofu right over here, Korean restaurant. Not just vegan, they have meat too. Amazing.
I
Okay.
second that.
It's that umami flavor, right? You get the whole cornerstone of the food group. I'm just backing you up.
Okay.
If you're a food
Have you
guy,
had
you
it?
know what umami is.
Edamame?
No,
Jen-
umami. There's spicy, there's sweet, there's salty, and then there's
I've never heard umami before. What
Google it. UMAMI.
is this like a urbanism phrase or whatever?
No, it's a chef.
We're way off topic here. Okay, fair enough. The point of right here is that at some point, those that are extremely wealthy, just because they have another million, billion, whatever dollars in their pocket, doesn't make them any more happy. The other phrase of what people often think is, oh, if I won the lottery, I'm quitting my job tomorrow, I'm going to go rest on a beach, I'm going to just sit there and do nothing. Being idle and doing nothing does not provide happiness. When we just get to the point and we have nothing to do, that does not provide happiness. So working hard and trying to accomplish things, that is one of the things that help provide happiness.
Maybe the happiness doesn't increase, but they're held at happiness
Okay,
because the lung level's out.
well, let me ask you a question. So he uses this example. He pointed out the 5 billionaires, the Zuckerbergs, the Gates, Bezos, the 5 people combined, they have about over $500 billion income. They have moments where they're obviously not happy all the time.
Yeah.
And
But once you're there, life is fairly good, I'm sure.
Well,
could be. I mean,
isn't there a law of the more things you have, the more you have to take care of?
okay.
So then at some point you're not happy.
Fear of loss.
Fear of loss, but also the stuff you have to dust and all that
Yeah.
crap too. But basically, there's an idea, and I heard it recently. There's an actual name for it, that the more you have, the more you have to take care of. And so at some point it kind of counteracts itself.
I agree.
I always thought then the more people you could pay to take care of.
Okay.
Maybe something
I would say, and this has been cooking my brain recently, but I would say there's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. Because I'm always happy, but I'm not necessarily always fulfilled. So that's my.
Okay, I can go with that. This is one of the funnier ones as well. I know funnier is not a word. Said children, but he also put up another chart that talks about where the median level where we would think happiness would provide. Like, you know, if you have children or not, it should be kind of right there in the middle. He said you'd think that if you had children, the scale would be clear over here. But believe it or not, if this is the middle, USA, America
So
is
13 years old.
no, we're just slightly under the don't have children side. We'll be happier, apparently.
Where does grandchildren fall in?
What is what?
Grandkids.
Grandkids, okay. Well,
That's why you have kids.
he did put it, the scale is based on the age. Seems like the older the children get, the happier we become. Maybe it's because there's hope that they're eventually going to be leaving, getting out on their own, and we can go now and provide stuff like this. So, I was wanting to talk about happiness as a whole. When I heard this, this was something that leading into it. But I want to shift with a different way of thinking by focusing on these two areas. Okay? Gratitude. If we are not thankful for the things that we have, how can you be happy? The need to be grateful is what makes us actually all tick, what makes us all work. And the thing about gratitude, and Timber kind of was mentioning something like this.
I like
Fear.
to jump the gun on whatever you're about to say.
You what?
I like to jump the gun on
Exactly.
whatever
You're
you're
going to
about
come up and just teach. Fear and gratitude cannot coincide. That fear of loss. Oh, you know, I've finally achieved everything that I want. I don't want to lose it. So we lose the gratitude because we're fear of losing something, or we're afraid to help somebody, and so because we don't feel like I'm just spitballing here. There's all kinds of examples, but if someone that depression seems to be an ongoing thing, they're so focused on themselves because they're not where they want to be. They're fearful for whatever it is, and the depression will come into the next piece. But they're focusing only on them versus trying to help others. So, handsome.
This is something I was kind of struggling with. I'm still struggling with, but gratitude, you would think, just looking at the polar opposite, selfishness or gratitude. And one thing that I'm learning is gratitude. You're focusing on the present and the things that you have. Fear, anxiety, all of those things. A lot of times it's the future and the unknown.
Right.
And that's where we stop being present in many cases. And then the other thing for me, since I started here really, was I remember there was some class about gratitude, and then I was thinking, how can I not be complacent but also have gratitude, right? Like, we're always progressing, we're going after growth, we're going after the next thing, or whatever it is. And I was having a really hard time with complacency versus gratitude. And then I realized it's in taking action. We're grateful for the actions we're taking and for the process we're in getting there rather than just being stuck.
I don't think if you're thankful for what you have doesn't mean that you can't continue to strive to get better. I think that complacency is definitely something that if we're stuck in that area, that goes back to sitting on, if you won the lottery and then you decided to go sit on a beach and just relax the rest of your life, the first couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks, would be pretty awesome. But then all of a sudden, then what? You're doing nothing. You're not growing. You're you're bored. Complacent is exactly what it was. So, absolutely, I think we need to continue to grow in order to maintain that. You saw it.
And then this is very powerful. Very. And the reason why I say that is you've just shown us that happiness has a contingency. You have to receive to be happy. Where gratitude is dependent on nothing. And what I mean by that is my wife and I, we listened to a book on CD about a gentleman and a lady that went through World War II. One of them was a German SS guard, and the lady was a Jewish lady that went through the camps and survived. And both occasions their situations were horrible, but throughout they always mentioned things they had gratitude for, or grateful. And gratitude leads to joy because gratitude allows us to find the positive in our challenges, and that's where joy comes from.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. The other side of this is contribution. This is where we're able to shift from focusing on ourselves and focusing on others. Helping, being a part of something, allows us to continue to grow. It allows us to, improvement, to really, when we take the shift off of ourselves, and I have a couple of family members, one niece specifically, she is so ingrained in, actually two of them, that are so focused on what they are doing rather than trying to get a break away from what they're focused on, from them, and trying to get out and just take their mind off of their challenges. They can't do it. And because of it, they are just stuck in this hole. And, many times I've gone over there, they're stuck in their room. I get it. They don't want to be around anybody because they don't want to be by them. They don't want to be with themselves anyway. The last thing they want to do is be with someone else because they're afraid they're going to bring that other person down, right? Let's be honest, no one wants to be around a bunch of Eeyores, right? It's true. But sitting by themselves is not something that's going to be helpful. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help the direction they're going. But when they do, all of a sudden they stop focusing on their problems. Over time, all of a sudden they start getting a smile. Just their behaviors change because they're now able to focus on something else. Those simple little things, when we focus on others, when we do things for other people, that's where we can grow. That's where one of the elements of that happiness occurs. Now, you got to have a balance of the two. I mean, I think some of the greatest contributors that exist are mothers. They're giving relentless to their kids, typically, right? And they're nagging husbands. They give, and give. Well, with the contribution, they've also got to make sure that they're also growing. If they're not growing themselves, if they might be giving to this one, but they're not having conversations with adults. They're stuck in this rut where they are not progressing themselves. All of a sudden, they're overwhelmed, which is kind of what this was talking about, is when the kids get older, maybe they're starting to be a little self-reliant. Now that the parents have a little more time for themselves. My wife and I, we were listening to this together, and we were just laughing, because here you got two little rugrats that are just occupying all your time, but hey, you want to have kids, right? And then the kids are the reason that we don't have happiness. It's kind of interesting and ironic, but we have to, even though we've got things that are there to get in our way, we have to make sure that we're progressing and thankful for what we do have and the moments. And happiness does not mean that you've just got smooth sailing the entire time. Many times when we're going through those challenges, that's when we grow and learn the most. And so appreciating those moments, that's when you can really start overcoming a lot of this stuff. I've had a lot of thoughts to this. Any other thoughts about it?
Yeah, I just want to throw in my little 2 cents on the word contribution. Another word that I think of is service. And if anybody reads any form of scripture with the Bible, we know that service leads to happiness, because you're being charitable. You're in the service of your fellow man, and with being in the service of your fellow man leads to gratitude, which leads to happiness. And then if you're grateful for what you're doing, you're grateful for your life, and you're grateful you can help other people, then your marriage gets better, your money management gets better, and your family life with your children gets better. And so those 3 things, we can look at it and say, oh, horse crap, marriage doesn't give us happiness, nor does money, nor does children. But if you do them correctly, and what I mean by correctly is you focus your time on your marriage and nourish it and grow it. If you handle your money wisely and don't spend it on stupid stuff, then money can be a great contributor to being part of a charity or helping out people that need food or whatever it may be. That can be a great form of happiness. And in your family life, you have to work at those things. And so you can't just wake up one day and say, gosh dang, I'm gonna be grateful and I'm gonna have charity. That's a gift that's given to us. We need to wake up and say, I'm gonna help out someone today. I'm gonna be more like my hero and be in services of other people, and in return we're gonna receive happiness and be grateful for life.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's, like aunts and uncles could, do the same things if they don't have children on themselves, to help nieces and nephews, maybe, achieve the same thing. I experienced that when I was a child. We had an aunt who was about 10 years older than my brothers and I, and she would take us all over the place, and those were great memories.
Sure.
I'm sure that was good for her too.
Awesome.
I'm new here, so I probably shouldn't say anything, but I wanted to say, what I wanted to say is, in studies I've done, and there's the hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
The bottom one is your basic life existence, food, shelter, and then you go into like friendships or interactions. The very, very tip top of that is called transcendence, and that is the ultimate desire to serve and be to a successful point where you can have the means to serve. But I love the word transcendence.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up. Turn this thing on.
Yeah, get the music. Yeah. Want to get it for you while you get started?
Yeah. Good for you.
Okay, closing affirmations. I succeed because I have my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to people. I know it's important to me. I remember people's names.